Hello there, so I want to tell you today about a little boy. And this little boy had a really difficult start in life. Because what happened to him is, when he was very young, he was taken away with a bunch of people, and his parents were executed in the middle of nowhere. And he was the only one left alive. And he was faced with the reality that his parents had just been killed and there was no one to help, and so he buried his parents in the only way that he could, which was traditional at that time, which was to find the stones and cover the bodies with stones. Now that, being such an extremely extremely severe experience, coloured the nature of reality for that little boy to such an extent that he really had a simple choice, which was either to just let go and die. His only means of support had been killed horrifically in front of his eyes, and he had to fend for himself. And it could have gone either way, but in his case, he developed the unquenchable desire to thrive and survive. That was it. So his unbending intent was at all costs to survive and thrive, and indeed he survived by killing and eating rats and eating rotten food. You might wonder why I'm telling you this story. It's because, of course, such things have happened. This comes from a historical show 500 years ago, set in Korea. And this boy grows up, and with his unquenchable desire to survive and thrive, he doesn't let anything stand in his way. He does eventually become what we would call the Prime Minister of the country. And because he's so determined, and because he's become so powerful, having been so weak at such an impressionable age, he not only is the Prime Minister of the country, but he's running the whole show and manipulating the king. So why am I sharing this with you? It's to do with the nature of reality, because that's a person that had an experience that was so traumatic, it coloured every single thing about that person. And eventually he ends up being married and having 2 children, a girl and a boy, and they grow up. And of course, the nature of reality for these children is completely different from their father, because it's their father that had to eat rats and rotten food to survive. They've had the best of everything, because of course that was his unbending intent, that his family should thrive. And when it comes to his son, he just doesn't have any patience with his son, because his son doesn't have any burning desire to do anything. He's quite happy just to flit about, and he puts all his hopes in his daughter. So what's going on here, and why am I sharing it with you? This is what I want to go into. When it comes to this man's beliefs, what we notice about him as the show progresses is that he has no heart. He's entirely heartless. He puts the survival of himself and his family above everything else, and he's perfectly happy to threaten to kill his children to make a point, whatever it takes to make sure that things go the way he knows they need to go, because he's the only one that has had these extreme experiences in the family. He's the only one who knows what a knife-edge life can be. That's the point of the whole thing. So we are deep into looking at the nature of reality here. And what I want you to see from that very simple story is that the man, as a boy, had experiences, and these created beliefs. So one of his core beliefs is love is an illusion. The only thing that matters is power. Love, it's an illusion. That was his view. And everything that happened in his life confirmed his original conclusion. Because his original conclusion was forged in the fires of such deep trauma. Well, what's going on here in 2020 is that pretty much worldwide people have had a chance to experience some trauma. All of the things that they normally take for granted have been stripped away, and they've found themselves being ordered to do things, ordered not to do things. And it's having a really big effect on people. So whereas once upon a time post-traumatic stress disorder, having something so traumatic that would have a really big impact on you, it was for maybe the few. Well, it's now for the many. So that's something I'm looking at. However, what happened for me last night is I got some insights about that which I want to share with you. And so I'm going to go directly to what I wrote last night. So bearing in mind the story of Lord Kim that we've just heard about, this is what I got. And I'm going to draw it all together after I've said it out to you. Be respectful for another person's point of view. Because for them, they have brought that belief into existence. By disrespecting their belief, this has felt like a wound to their ego. They may become sad. They may become angry. They may lash out at you. One thing is for sure. At the moment you disrespect their belief, that feels like you're disrespecting their identity. In that moment you've lost credibility in their eyes because they see you as attempting to be superior to them, judging them for being an idiot. Think on this. So that's what came up for me last night, and that's what I've been doing. I've been meditating and thinking and processing ever since. So here's an example. Some of you know that I was trained as a microbiologist and did indeed practice as a microbiologist in medical pathology. So what I learned a very long time ago, and I don't bother speaking about this much in my day-to-day life, I don't ever talk about this, but what I learned is that this, what people call virus, this thing that a lot of people are frightened of, it fails Cox postulates, which is a microbiological way to determine whether something exists or not. And that means, as far as science is concerned, as far as microbiology is concerned, what people call a virus actually doesn't exist because it doesn't transmit the way smallpox. Someone's got smallpox and they've got the full-blown disease, take a little bit of the pus out of one of their wounds, put it into a healthy human being where you've cut the skin, they get smallpox. That's what it means to prove that a disease exists. I've made it as simple as I possibly can. Cut a few corners, but that's the bottom line. So when people attempt to infect someone with some of the virus, nothing happens. So here's what I realized last night. It's okay for me not to hold that belief that the virus exists, and I can enjoy the benefit of my microbiological education to realize that that's the case. Fails Cox postulates doesn't actually exist. But when it comes to my interactions with people on a daily basis, it's very important that I respect the beliefs of others. So there are some people that are convinced the whole thing's a hoax. There are other people that are convinced this is a deadly pandemic. My job as a human being is to respect the points of view of others. And I'm very grateful at this point in my film to tell you about a group that I'm a member of on email, and it's called Wealth Research Group. And therefore it's obviously got to do with money, the stock market, gold and silver, cryptocurrencies and all the rest of it. However, it's really intelligently written, and the person who's responsible for creating this comes up several times a week. He takes a much bigger view than merely looking at finance, and he makes this point. In these times, it's very important that we respect the beliefs of others, particularly if we want to be friends or do business or have any interaction with other people. Because as soon as we show that we have got no respect for their belief system, then that's it, we've lost them. They are no longer amenable to us. And I've been with people who hold the very strong view about virus being a hoax. And I've walked around places and they will say things about people wearing masks, for example, and they are very disrespectful and downright offensive, calling the person all sorts of names like idiot and slave and all the rest of it. Whenever this was going on, it felt profoundly wrong. And I felt troubled because I knew that from the point of view what I'd learned as a microbiologist, that there isn't anything there actually. But if people do believe there's something there, then for them there is something there. And this is where I go into the nature of reality. If you are completely convinced of something, then that becomes a core belief. So Lord Kim had this core belief that everyone was out to get him, and there was no respect for life, and there was no love, it was an illusion. And he spent the rest of his life proving that to be true by behaving in an incalculably callous and cruel ways to all people, even including his own children, which made absolutely certain that he didn't ever get to receive any love because people hated him because of the choices he was making. Now this is why I want to bring in the astrology and the shamanism, because we are now, more than we were a few weeks ago, feeling the age of Aquarius. We're feeling it more because Jupiter and Saturn, two very important planets, have moved from Capricorn into Aquarius. Saturn is about form, structure, organization, orderliness, how we order our lives. And Jupiter is about gifts, generosity, being magnanimous, being someone that's got lots to share with other people. Generous, that's a good word. So generous Jupiter and ordered Saturn have both slipped into Aquarius. We're feeling the energy of the Aquarian age suddenly, by an increment, a whole load more. And it's no coincidence that when that happened, Bitcoin suddenly did a huge leap. It was waiting for those two planets to get out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. Now there's a belief which you may choose to accept or to regard to be irrelevant or to ridicule, and that's your choice. But here's what I'm coming to. With the Aquarian age, what's happening for us is that we are moving more and more away from blind faith and obedience and believing things. This is much more about the time of the particular Latin term, which is non-credo. The whole Aquarian age, which is going to last for more than 2,000 years, it was all based upon non-credo. Non-credo is don't believe. So the advice for this age is don't believe. And the more that you're able to free yourself from fixed belief systems, the more plastic your reality becomes, the more things can move and change. And this is how it's possible a person might have a serious illness for a long period of time and suddenly it gets cured. They call it spontaneous remission in medical circles. And it's because there's been a shift in that person's belief system. To use shamanic terminology, they've actually shifted their assemblage point out of identification with the illness into identification with health. So can you see this is a very important subject I'm bringing up? So what I'm suggesting is to tread lightly upon the belief systems of others. Be respectful, even if your belief system is completely poles apart from theirs, because this is another quality we've all noticed in 2020, and it's been, in the opinion of some, it's been deliberate. Some would say this is a deliberate attempt to polarize people into opposing points of view, who then defend those points of view to the very last breath. That's very unhelpful. That's very old age. What's very New Age is, in the best sense of that word, the real New Age, is to actually let go of as many belief systems as you can and keep it simple, and then to do what Aquarius is all about. So this is what I did when I did my shamanic training. When I did my first journeys and encountered and discovered my safe place and these various guides that turned up, what I did is I put it all to the test. I did the journeys and I did these works for other people, and then I would listen to what they would say. I would listen to their feedback, and I was testing my relationship with these beings who I was taught to call guides or allies. And when I discovered time after time after time they provided powerful insights for that person or gave amazing healing, then over the years, over the 2 years, I then developed an unshakable belief in the power of my guides when I work with them. That's what enables me to do healing work for other people. That's what shamanic practice is all about. So it's okay to hold beliefs, but make sure they're ones that serve you well. So this is one of the questions I ask myself, because for those of you who know, I've done the whole journey, because although I never actually took on the belief system of there being a deadly virus, I acted as if it was true. And this is something else you can do. I suspended my disbelief and I chose to go into isolation. And when I went to Tenerife, I chose to comply and wear a mask. And I chose, when walking around Sidmouth with a lot of frightened people, to obey social distancing. I chose to do all these things, and I observed how that affected me, my consciousness, my spirit, my soul. And then when I came back from Tenerife, I made different choices. And the choice I make now is to honour my own truth. And my own truth is to go about my life in the way I choose to do. And although I do find seeing other people in masks upsetting, that's purely a reflection of my own childhood traumas. And I don't lash out at these people. I don't make any comments whatsoever. All the mask wearers, I accept you wear masks. And sometimes I get a bit irritated, and if I make a negative judgment, I get pissed off, then I will, as soon as possible, send that person a blessing, counteract any possible negative energy I might perhaps have sent out. And this puts me into a position where I'm following the advice that was given. So what it comes down to is this: choose carefully what you believe. If you can, do a decluttering of belief systems. That can be very helpful. And when it comes to any possibility, do your own research. Non-credo, don't believe. Trust yourself first, last and foremost. And let's go into it again. This is my divine guidance last night. Be respectful for another person's point of view, because for them, they brought that belief into existence. By disrespecting their belief, that is felt to them like a wound to their ego. They may become sad, angry, they may lash out and try to hurt you. One thing is for sure, at that moment, your disrespect of their belief feel to them like you're disrespecting their identity. And at such a moment you lose credibility in their eyes, because they see you as being superior, judging them for being an idiot. So my advice to you is to think on this and to do all you can not to get pulled into all this energy of polarization. Choose to respect your own beliefs and choose your beliefs based upon your own research of what you feel is right, what you feel works for you. Choose to live your life in the way that feels good to you. Don't allow the beliefs of others to force you into a corner where you've lost connection with your own truth and your own reality. Because reality is very plastic, and it is possible I'm going to end up with this image. I knew a woman who had ME and she lived in Tunbridge Wells, and one day she was on the front page of the local paper holding up her wheelchair. If you've never picked up a wheelchair, let me tell you something about wheelchairs. They're heavy. The fact she could have her wheelchair and hold it up in her arms was her way of saying, I let go of that illness. I created a new reality for myself whereby I'm healthy. So I'm going to leave you with all that. And it's the first film I've made in our new home, which we love. And at some point I'll show you around, and I look forward to sharing with you again sometime. Final point to end on the 12th of January, I'm going to be hosting an introduction to shamanism, and it's going to be in Glastonbury, in Benedict Street, in the pub called the King Arthur. So if you're interested, it's one of these things you can drop in. You don't have to book in advance. It's nice to be able to say that today. And if you want more information, please just leave me a comment in the comments section, and I'll give you my email. So if you want to communicate about that, you're most welcome. So it's Introduction to Shamanism, and obviously we're going to be looking at subjects like belief systems, because they're core to the practice of shamanism. So it's 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. on Tuesday the 12th of January at the King Arthur pub in Glastonbury, Benedict Street. And if you are able to get there and it's something for you, look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much.